Hi guys, so this is Maddie Keast and we are back on YouTube. This time I'm going to show you guys how we meal prep for the week. So Nat's behind the camera and we're just going to kind of go through everything that we cook for the week. We've had a lot of people ask us, I guess, kind of what we do to meal prep and what it all entails. So we're here to show you guys. So just to start off with, this seems like a lot of food, which it is, but this is honestly the reality. Probably what we go through in about 4 to 5 days. We could maybe stretch it out for a week depending on kind of how much we're eating or where our measurements have to be for everything in terms of serving sizes. So just some major staples that we always have is 99% fat-free ground turkey. And I'm going to show you guys a way how I prep this so it's not as dry and nasty as it sounds. 99% fat-free turkey sounds disgusting because it's very, very dry if you just cook it to have it be ground and just kind of cook it in a pan like you would with beef. So I actually make meatloafs out of this with some sugar-free and low-calorie condiments and seasonings, so it kind of gives it a way to make it more enjoyable, I guess, to eat throughout the week. So we got about 3 pounds of that. Shrimp is a really good option that we always go for. It's really low in calories, high in protein. If you can get it from Costco, if you have Costco membership, it's the easiest way to buy it. And if you can buy all this stuff in bulk, it really helps with just the overall cost. Next, my favorite is we got about 12 to 15 pounds of salmon. I like to bake this, and I like to make it kind of Cajun style. So I use any spices that are readily available. They don't really add that many calories. It might add a little sodium, but you can opt for salt-free or lower sodium choices if that's something that you're needing in your diets or based on your macros or whatever plan you're following. So you'll see we add a lot of spices to all this stuff so it's not as terrible and bland throughout the week. Nat's a big fan of chicken burgers or turkey burgers. I don't really like these guys too much because I make my meatloaf, but they're also a really good option, a lot lower in fat than ground beef, and they're pretty nice and convenient. They come in a pack of 6. Next thing we have is just a ton of frozen veggies. So we really like the rice veggies because it kind of adds more just volume, I guess, to your food. If you do get smaller portions of carbs at a certain meal, you throw this, mix it in with your rice. You can't really tell the difference. You can, but you can't really tell the difference if there's a higher volume of food. Just fills you up a little bit more. These are really convenient. And then I like to saute and season a whole bunch of vegetables at once. So you'll see I have my big stir fry pan out, and we'll pretty much mix together all this stuff. So a lot of green peppers. We got about 4 or 5 bags of those guys. And then a bunch of onions for flavor. We'll add some mushrooms, cilantro, garlic, kind of just make a nice saute that we can add to any meal that is pretty generically seasoned across the board. We also got some green beans that I might put under the broiler, just to kind of give those a nice little crisp, maybe mix up our vegetables quite a bit. I would say volume-wise, we eat the most amount of vegetables. It's just something that's consistent with every single meal. So, whatever vegetables you like, grab them, add them up. I would just recommend, if you are counting like whether or not it's a vegetable versus like a starchy carb, potatoes don't count as a vegetable, they count as a carb. Or, anything that's pretty water-based is anything that I would consider a good clean vegetable that you can add and implement into your diet. Next, we have some fruit. We got peaches, apples. Again, I will wash all these, cut them all up, and divvy them out into the appropriate, amount of food that we're allowed to have with each meal. So I got my scale here, like always. We'll cut that out, prep them all up. We only get, a very specific amount of fruit since it is mostly sugar and carb based, but it is a really good addition. And again, if you have a specific type of fruit that you're keen to, whether it's pineapple, berries, cherries, whatever, feel free to grab that. They have lots of frozen options as well. Another thing, we'll count out our almonds. This is my main source of fat aside from the omegas that I'll get here in the salmon. this is my main source of fat. Again, I'll count them out, bag them up, just so I know exactly what I'm consuming and what I'm eating. Some other fat options that you guys can go for is if you like to cook your meat with like extra virgin olive oil, or any option that's really pure in that sense, that's not refined and becomes a saturated fat. That's a good option. I like almonds, they tend to fill me up the most. Next we have just a whole bunch of eggs. I won't actually cook these up until I need to use them, just because eggs don't heat very well once they're cooked. But I usually go about 1 whole egg along with 3 whites. Yeah, we go through eggs like there's no tomorrow. Honestly, I eat about 84 eggs a week. So between Nat and I, we go through these cartons pretty quick. Last little thing is we do have some carbs like I was talking about. Again, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, all of those are really good options if you are like an implemented carb. Right now, currently the diet that I'm on and the plan that I'm on doesn't allow for a ton of potatoes. I can't have a whole potato, so I opt for something a little more voluminous, like I was saying. So we have whole wheat pasta options, which are really good. That cooks up well. And then we have white rice, which is Nat's favorite, and then rice cakes in the morning, which goes good if you have a meal that you can implement a fruit in. And then of course, just kind of if you're in a rush or you don't have time to weigh out and get the convenience of having a meal that's really truly has a clean, good protein in it, that's a whole food source. I always recommend whole food sources first, so turkey, any sort of meat. If you're vegan, I don't know how to help you, sorry. PETA, if you're watching this, also sorry. But I always go for the Dymatize ISO 100. It's a really clean protein. It tests really high on Labdoor or a lot of different websites online that are third party and test the quality and the economy and economics behind all this stuff. So it tests really high on that. It's a great protein, low in calories, low in fat, and so that's a good thing to have on board if I need to implement something that's not whole food based. So we're gonna start cooking. We'll show you exactly how we cook everything and what we add to it, and we're gonna get rolling. So I typically start by prepping all of the fish and poultry first. This way it just kind of eliminates some of the counter space that's being taken up and gets it cooking first, so since it's typically the stuff that cooks the longest. So I'm just kind of undoing all this salmon right now. I'll pop a couple trays in the oven. I cook everything on parchment paper, just that way so I don't have to grease or oil a pan. Really eliminates that added excess fat and calories, even though cooking spray says 0 calories. If it's olive oil, it has calories. If it's cooking oil, it has calories. If it's canola oil, it has calories. So just I cook everything on parchment paper. It keeps it nice and moist, but allows it not to stick to the pan. So I'm going to throw this in the oven, get the shrimp going over here in my wok pan, and then get the chicken burgers sizzling up on here. So we're going to start that, and then next we'll probably hit the vegetables. So we have the shrimp and the chicken burgers cooking over here. Nat doesn't like her chicken burgers seasoned at all, so I leave those alone. But for the shrimp, I always like to add garlic salt. I don't have to watch my sodium intake very closely yet, so I pretty much sprinkle this stuff on everything to add flavor. So I'm going to sprinkle some of that on the shrimp, and then I always like to add some lime juice for acidity to seafood. Always just kind of brings out the flavor, so I'm going to let those steam off as Nat's chicken burgers cook, and then I sprinkled some of this as well as some fresh dill or chives on the salmon that's in the oven. So that cooks at 400 just until I like mine a little bit more crispy. Nat likes hers not as crispy, so we kind of just let that cook for like an hour, hour and a half. Over here next, so I put 3 packs or 3 pounds of the 99% ground turkey into the bowl. Okay, like I said, if you cook this on the stovetop or even try and make patties with it, it tends to dry out really quickly because there is absolutely like no fat in it at all. So some of the condiments I like to use to make my little meatloaf, so as you can see I bought some little tins that can just go straight to the oven. So what I like to add to this is of course some garlic salt again, and then I'm a really big fan of this sugar-free ketchup, and any good meatloaf needs ketchup. So this is sugar-free. It's 5 calories a serving. Absolutely no sugars at all, and just 1 gram of carbs. So I can use this in moderation. Some Worcestershire sauce, and then same brand. This sugar-free barbecue sauce. It's actually really tasty. Again, no added sugar, so I mix some of that into there, and then I'll mold them, shape them, and throw them into the oven once our salmon's done cooking. So I just finished up, molded all the meatloaves. Okay, I'm gonna throw those into the oven, and based on the thickness of how thick you cook them, obviously vary the cooking time. But always make sure that you have one of these guys handy. Just make sure that you avoid the possibility of food poisoning, or if you have a girlfriend named Salmonella Sally like I have, and make sure so you don't die. I'm gonna start dicing up these mushrooms right here, and then as you can see, I kind of just threw a whole medley of a bunch of the vegetables we had into my saute pan, added a little bit of cilantro for flavor, and then I'll probably hit it with some garlic, and really you just gotta kind of like let this sweat out. I don't add any oil to it or anything. It's frozen, so it adds a lot of water, but it doesn't compromise any of the nutrients or vitamins you'll be getting. So I'm gonna throw those in the oven, and then the shrimp's just about done, and we're gonna start working on the carbs. Alright, so we still have all of our salmon and our meatloaves cooking, which is going to take quite a while, but as soon as those are cooked, these are pretty self-explanatory. You just got to wrap them, and then you can keep them in the fridge and divvy them up based on the proportion you need. The salmon we'll put in a Tupperware, and then everything else we got prepped. So we got all of our carbs done, we got our noodles, we got a ton of different vegetable options that Nat was nice enough to get going for us. We got our broccoli, cauliflower, riced veggies, some sauteed mushrooms, a whole bunch of vegetables here that we can measure out, turkey, shrimp. We got another carb in rice, and then as you can see, the last little bit here, I divvied up some of our fruit into 4-ounce servings, so they're just ready to go and grab as soon as we get up in the morning and need our first meal. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you guys need any nutrition advice or have any questions or anything, please feel free to contact me either via my website, Instagram, YouTube, in the comments. Subscribe to my channel, and hope you guys have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you later.